Have you ever felt like you're just on a completely different wavelength from everyone around you? You know, like your logic follows this path that other people just can't seem to see? Well, today we're going to dig into why some of the most intelligent minds often feel like total outsiders.
Man, this quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The idea here isn't that you're socially awkward or trying to be difficult. It's that the disconnect you feel might actually be a sign of a fundamentally different way of thinking. So, if that sounds at all familiar, you're definitely in the right place.
So let's start with what we're calling the outsider feeling. And look, this isn't some rare thing. It's a really common experience for people with a certain kind of cognitive makeup. It's not about what you know, it's all about how you process information. And that difference, right there, can create a real sense of isolation. So this is the big question we're going to try to unpack. Why is it that the very thing that makes someone brilliant, their unique way of seeing the world, can also be the very thing that makes them feel so disconnected from it?
And the answer isn't about personality quirks or, social preferences. It goes way deeper than that, right down to the cognitive architecture, the basic operating system of the mind itself. And it really all boils down to two specific features of this system that pretty much explain everything.
Okay, so the first piece of this puzzle is a really powerful trait called cognitive independence. And this is all about where you get your sense of direction.
So what does this actually mean in practice? Well, it means you've got a really strong internal compass. When you're faced with a problem or a decision, your first instinct isn't to look around and see what everyone else is doing. Nope, you look inward, to your own analysis, your own logic.
And this creates a really fascinating contrast, right? Most of society runs on what's called normative social influence. It's kind of like following a social map. You follow the trends, you fit in, it's efficient. But someone with cognitive independence, they're running on a totally different system. They're guided by that internal compass, and they're always asking, wait, is this map even right? For them, it's all about being accurate, not just about belonging.
All right, now for the second key trait. If cognitive independence is about how you make decisions, this next one, associative integration, is all about what you're able to see in the first place. This is like the brain's secret superpower for finding hidden patterns. It's that ability to grab a concept from, say, biology, connect it to an idea from economics, and suddenly see a pattern that nobody else noticed because they were all staying in their own little lanes. It's about seeing the whole web, not just the single threads.
This creates two really different ways of thinking. Most conversations, most thought processes follow a simple linear path. A leads to B, which leads to C. It's easy to follow, it's predictable. But an associative thinker, they might jump from A all the way to X, then over to Z before landing back at C. Now, to an outsider, that leap just looks totally random, maybe even illogical. But to the associative thinker, there's a perfectly clear thread connecting it all. It's just a thread that other people can't see.
Okay, so we've got these two core traits, right? Cognitive independence and associative integration. Now, let's put them together and completely reframe this whole experience. This is where it all clicks.
So here's the crucial part. Your mind operates with an internal compass, not a social map. And you see a whole web of connections that others miss. So what happens when you combine those two things? Well, you get a perspective that is incredibly unique and often profoundly unrelatable to people who think in more linear, socially driven ways. And this, right here, is the key takeaway. If you have ever felt like an outsider, I want you to let this sink in for a second. That feeling, it isn't a social flaw. It's a cognitive feature. You're not weird. You're just wired differently. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Society has a habit of labeling anything it doesn't understand as weird. But what if that very weirdness, that unique ability you have to think independently and to connect the unconnected, what if that's not something that needs to be fixed at all? What if it's actually the very definition of your genius?